Welcome to the first official episode of Talking Collingwood. My name is Robbie D, and I'm your host. And this podcast will officially be launching next year for season 2024. However, I will be putting together a couple of episodes towards the back end of this home and away season and also during September, hopefully with a few guests on board to join the podcast as well. So I will be reviewing and dissecting that very disappointing loss to Hawthorn on the weekend. Final scores from that game were Hawthorn 16-9-105 to Collingwood 11-7-73. I personally didn't see that coming, especially after losing to Carlton. I was expecting a response. I'm sure our whole supporter base was also expecting a response. Unfortunately, we didn't get a response. We pretty much did not turn up. So just going through the stats from this game, I'll just start with some of the individual stats from Collingwood. Just some of our goal kickers, our main goal kickers. Jamie Elliott finished with 3 goals. Jordan De Goey finished with 2 goals. And Dan McStay finished with 2 goals. Disposals. Jack Crisp ended up with 27 disposals, but had no impact on the game. Scott Pendlebury ended up with 23 disposals and 7 tackles, which was the highest tackle count in our team on what was a very disappointing day, especially in that facet of the game, which was the pressure. But the oldest player in our team laid the most tackles. Still Sidebottom, 21 disposals. And Jordan De Goey finished with 17 disposals, as well as the 2 goals that he kicked. Darcy Cameron finished with 31 hitouts, but he got destroyed in the ruck, had no impact on the game. And also, a very quiet game from Tom Mitchell, 11 disposals. Looked really tired. I'm a big Tom Mitchell fan, and I just truly believe that when we had a chance to rest him mid-season and, get some games into Finn McRae and Josh Carmichael, we decided to persist with him. And now he looks banged up, tired, and who knows, he might even be carrying an injury. He was subbed out. Pat Lipinski, 18 disposals. He's been really disappointing this year. I know he missed a big chunk of first half of the season. His first shoulder injury that he received prior to round 1, I think it was. Thing is with Lipinski, he's playing a high half forward role. So, we might need to, if we're not going to play him in the middle, then there's no place for him in our side because he's not a high half forward. He's currently not performing, but Fly absolutely loves him. I think Lipinski on his day is a good player. However, our midfield needs to function. He needs to be playing in the midfield and getting the ball on the outside because he's a big body, but it's just off at the moment. I still think he keeps his spot, but geez, like he's skating on thin ice. Some other stats from the game, and this is actually team stats. So Hawthorn finished with 410 disposals. to Collingwood's 313. Hawthorn had 252 kicks to Collingwood's 173 kicks. Hawthorn had 158 handballs to Collingwood's 140. So have a look at that differential between Hawthorn's 252 kicks to 158 handballs. Now, Hawthorn their game plan's based around the handball. They've got a handball game. Now, the differential here is a big. It's over just under 100 possessions more that were kicks. So that sort of links up with the other stat, which was uncontested possessions, which Hawthorn had 285 to Collingwood's 198. So they did chip the ball around a lot more and created that overlap. And obviously hurt us in transition. Inside 50 count, 59 to Hawthorn, 43 to Collingwood. Disposal efficiency, 78.8% to Hawthorn, 76% to Collingwood. Hitouts, Hawthorn were on top in that department, 49 to 36. Centre clearances. Now, this one, I've actually circled this as like the main factor. This stat was circled for a reason, because Hawthorn finished with 18 centre clearances to Collingwood's 3, and that was where Hawthorn smashed us, bullied us, bashed us pretty much, destroyed us. And that's where the game was won. We just did not turn up at all at the centre bounces. And it was borderline embarrassing, to be honest, the way they just bullied us and just got the ball out with ease, and just the way the modern game is played. Yes, I know we're a good team, transitioning from defence. So I know last year we lost a lot of centre clearances. We still made a prelim. However, this year we actually fixed that issue with Tom Mitchell coming in. And first half of the year, we were winning a lot of centre clearances, and now we're not. So that's where the game was won. Obviously, Sam Mitchell got McGuinness to tag Nick Dacos. Nick finished with 5 possessions and was tagged out of the game with absolute no support from his teammates. The coaching staff didn't do him any favors. What should have happened was they should have just moved Nick to the halfback line, where he started the start of the season, where he'll be very hard to tag there. Much harder to tag a player off halfback than it is in the midfield, where he's going to be stuck in stoppages. And obviously, Nick is still not a big body; he's still maturing, but his teammates just did not stick up for him. And there was one passage of play where I think it was the second disposal he got. He won a free kick on the wing. Would have been the first or second quarter. He was laying on the ground, trying to get up. And then a Hawthorn player just stands on top of him and just gave him this jumper punch. And not one of his teammates stood up for him. And then it took him to get hit after taking that mark, which obviously led to, the injury, which obviously led to some of our players flying the flag, obviously led by Josh. And then he kicked the goal, obviously. And at that stage, he was still in the game, but by that stage, he was playing on one leg. So, his impact was completely taken away. So credit to Sam Mitchell for tagging him out of the game. However, I think Hawthorn went above and beyond breaking the rules, to be honest. I'll take that back. I don't give credit to Sam Mitchell. I think Sam Mitchell actually went out and instructed his players to hurt Nick Dacos. So I think they overstepped the line. However, we didn't do him any favors. And then it's one of the few games I actually missed. I didn't go on Saturday. I had surgery in the morning, so I had to rest. However, I watched the game on TV and I heard the halftime interview with Taylor Adams, and they asked him about the Nick Dacos tag, and he pretty much came out and said, it's all right. He'll be around for the next 10, 15 years. He's just going to have to sort it out and work his way through it. All right. what about the here and now? How are we actually going to support him? That's not a very good response from a leader at the club. Like, it was almost like just brushed the question off and just said, yeah, it's all right. Nick, who's just a 20-year-old kid, that was just getting physically bashed by Hawthorn players for the whole first half. And one of the leaders at the club just comes out and just brushes it off like it's nothing. Oh, yeah, he'll just sort it out for the next 10, 15 years. Sorry, Taylor Adams, but you should be standing up for your teammates a lot better than that. Not just, obviously during an interview, but on the field. Like, the only player that really flies the flag at Collingwood is Braden Maynard. And to a certain extent, Bo McQuarrie. They're the two most physical players. And I just think that was really disappointing. But just in general, apart from our patch in the second quarter, we got smashed for 3.5 quarters of that game. Some of the other stats, and then this one was an interesting one. Stoppage clearances, we actually won that comfortably, 16-33. But it made obviously no impact on the game. Uncontested possessions was 285 to Hawthorn, 198 to Collingwood. Contested possessions was an area where we got smashed against Carlton, and Hawthorn finished with 116 to Collingwood 112. So we broke even there. The main issue was those center clearances. That's where the game was won. But overall, very disappointing performance. I thought Jamie Elliott was good, kicking 3 goals. He was sharp. He's been our best forward by a country mile these last 6 weeks, ever since he's been back from his injury and from the rest that he had mid-season. But overall, like, defensively, we were all over the place. Darcy Moore had an absolute stinker. I think he gave away 4 goals. And there was just no chemistry in our defense. But however, the ball was going in so often, and Hawthorn obviously we're winning first use out of the middle, and we're getting the ball into dangerous areas. And obviously with Mitch Lewis and a few other players they've got up there, they cause us all sorts of problems. And forward of the ball, like in our forward line, apart from Elliott and McStay, who, to be honest, he's impressed me, McStay. He's been taking contested marks. He's been averaging 2 goals a game since he's been back. But since he's been back, it's other players like Brody Mychek and Ash Johnson who have just been very quiet, and it's just that chemistry is not there between the three of them. How we fix that moving forward, that's our coaching staff's got some big decisions to make. But Checkers in general just looks off the pace. But then, to his defense, I don't think Mychek is a number 1 key forward. He just plays as our number 1 key forward because technically, that's the role he's playing. If he was at a Carlton, for example, playing behind McKay or Kerner as a number 3 forward, Mychek will be unstoppable. Not that, I'm having a go at Mychek. I rate Mychek highly as a player. I love Mychek as a player. I think he's done a great job playing a role that he technically shouldn't be playing. But he's just off the pace at the moment. And I'm hoping that he finds some form in the next few weeks before, that first qualifying final. Other parts of the game that disappointed me, again, was just the lack of effort, the lack of pressure. We're apparently going through a heavy training phase. Now, I've heard this from good sources that we're going through a heavy training phase. However, I'm just trying to figure out, and my uncle Sly, who runs the Collingwood Rant podcast, he mentioned that in the episode earlier in the week that, and I agreed with him. He mentioned that teams do a 5 to 6 month preseason. There's 2 practice games leading into the season, and you're playing 23 games. If we aren't fit now, surely what all the work we've put in since November, December is enough for the players to sort of get through to this point of the season. And this is where, we're probably supposed to be managing players. Now, maybe they might have the reverse effect. Obviously, there's a reason behind it. I'm not an expert, but it's showing like we look tired. Now, if this is supposed to like help us in the long run, where we, peak in September with this training regime we're under, time will tell. But at the moment, our game is based around pressure and tackling and, causing the opposition to turn the ball over. And we look like a shadow of ourselves at the moment. Apart from that, it's not much more to say about this game. Apart from it was just very disappointing. Are the alarm bells ringing? Not yet, but according to the media, they are. According to Kane Corns, Nick Dacos just gets cheap possessions out of the goal square. Now, just before I talk about the Geelong game, I want to talk about Kane Corns. Kane, honestly, like last season, picked on Jack Ginnivan, and now he's picking on Nick Dacos. These are 19 and 20-year-old kids. Like, I understand as a media pundit, you've got a job to do, but it is just pure ignorance and arrogance to come out and just, especially Nick, like to come out and say, "Oh yeah, Nick, you get cheap kicks. I don't want to see you getting cheap kicks when you're getting tagged. So you're going to go to the back line and you're kicking the ball in and you're getting cheap possessions." Like, that was just a cheap shot, Kane. Like, the kid's just been ruled out for 6 weeks and you're coming out and having a dig. Like, grow up, honestly. Like, you're a flog, Kane. Simple as that. Like, it's actually a joke. And then hearing him the other day talking about Port Adelaide, oh, that Port loss against Geelong was as good as a win. And Geelong got 5 push in the backs that weren't paid to them. And Port Adelaide obviously didn't get the same treatment from the umpires. Well, we know Geelong gets looked after by the umpires. However, Kane, stop making excuses. Your club has lost 4 games in a row. So maybe you should be talking about Port Adelaide instead of having a dig at Collingwood, who are still sitting 2 games clear on top. We've got our own issues at the moment. We'll work our way through it, but just shut up, Kane. So that's my dig for the week at Kane Corns. Okay. Moving forward to the Geelong game. Obviously, we've lost Nathan Murphy. Now, Fly's come out today and said that he's a chance to play on Friday night. So that's really interesting to see whether we roll the dice and play him or whether we just let him sit the week out and bring in Frampton. So going into this Geelong game, like, the way I see it, we need a response this week. Like, obviously we want to win, but the response needs to come from our effort, our pressure, and our system. Now, if we come out and win the game, we show a lot of character that obviously we can work our way through tough situations, especially now without Nick Dacos. Suddenly, Fly and the coaching staff need a plan B and a plan C. They need to go out and put a team together and a mix together, especially in the midfield, and a system together that is obviously going to catch the opposition off guard, because obviously now with Nick Dacos not being available, a lot of our play goes through Nick. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the coaching staff do. But regardless, going into the Geelong game, what we want from now to the end of the season is to build momentum, right? So back to what I said before. We need to get our system right. Our pressure needs to be at 100% against Geelong. If it's not good enough to win the game, but we bring that to the table and we show we've got a system and we show that we've improved from the last 2 weeks, but we still lose, yes, that will be disappointing. However, as long as it builds momentum into the Brisbane game and the Essendon games, then we need to start getting the wins by putting those performances together. What we don't want is to be in this position in 3 weeks' time. So I think this is a bit of a reality check where we can take a step back. The coaching staff can take a step back and sort of reflect and go again, like recharge. So it's about where we are at in 3 weeks' time is what's going to matter going into the finals. If the finals were starting this week, yes, I'd be a little bit concerned. But, we've got 3 weeks plus a bye, before that first qualifying final. Obviously, we still don't know who we're going to play yet. But regardless, it's all about system now. Now, Geelong, obviously, they're sitting ninth. They've come off a good win against Port Adelaide on the weekend. The reigning premiers. It's always a big game against Geelong. It's a sellout. The changes. Let's talk about the changes that are, that we should be looking at making, or what I think we should make anyway. Obviously, Nick Dacos is out. So for me, obviously, Oleg Markov will come in for Nick. Obviously, will play a different role. He'll go on the half-back line. And obviously, if Murphy is not 100% fit, Fly, please rest him. Just bring Frampton in. Let Frampton play that lockdown role as our key defender. More than likely, he'll take Hawkins. If Hawkins plays, I'm sure he will. He loves playing against Collingwood, Tom Hawkins. Which will then, just allow Howe and Moore to sort of, they'll work it out between themselves with Jeremy Cameron. Like, one of them will obviously take Cameron, the other one will intercept. Or you also got the option of playing Maynard on Cameron, but more than likely, I think Maynard will get Gary Rowan. I think Plato will probably get Henry. And you've also got Stengel there as well, from Geelong. So they've got a lot of weapons, Geelong, in the forward half. So we need to be at our best, but the defense doesn't worry me. I think defensively, we're pretty strong. It's just what we do in the middle of the ground from those centre bounces is what's going to make the difference. So Frampton in for Murphy, if Murphy's not fit to play. Markov will come in for Nick Dacos and obviously move into into our starting 22. Then, what do we do about Ash Johnson? Do we bring Mason Cox back? Darcy Cameron isn't giving us first use out of the centre at the moment. So if we bring back Cox, does Ash Johnson make way? And then Darcy Cameron and Cox will play that third forward role when the other one is, when they're not, we'll play the third forward role when they're not rucking. Or do we drop Cameron and bring back Cox and leave Johnson in the side, but then have McStay rucking, which doesn't make sense. Like, McStay is playing well in the forward line. Don't try to fix what's not broken, sort of thing. But I'm not saying that the forward line's not broken at the moment. It is, but McStay's playing well. So you don't want to take away something that, someone that's averaging 2 goals a game and 4 or 5 contested marks a game, out of your forward line. What we need to try to do is get that mix right. Now, I'll bring Cox back, definitely. And I'll probably bring him back for Johnson. I just think, I know It was a bit hard for the forwards on the weekend, but yeah, he's just non-existent. Johnson, yes, he's got a bit of X factor, but he just goes missing for for large parts of the game most weeks. But he can be damaging. But let's see what the coaching staff do. And also, we need to replace Nick Dacos as well. So obviously, the other option you would have is obviously you got Will Hoskin Elliott, who might come in as a sub, and obviously take the spot from Markov as Markov will move into the 22. Here's the issue though. In the middle of the season, like I mentioned earlier in the episode when I was talking about Tom Mitchell, we just haven't blooded any of our VFL players this year, and now we need them. Finn McRae, if I've seen is available, are they going to bring him in? Who knows? It's too early in the week. But I'd say the concrete changes at the moment will be Markov in for Dacos, Frampton in for Murphy if Murphy doesn't get up to play, Cox in for Johnson, and Hoskin Elliott will probably come into the 23. That's my tip. But what we need to fix is the issue we have at centre bounces. And Bo McQuarrie, who was one of our better players on the weekend, he's a beast. I liked how the coaching staff put him in the middle and he won a couple clearances. I'd personally start Bo McQuarrie at every centre bounce and then let him drift forward the way Dusty used to do at Richmond. Just change it up. Get that balance right at the centre bounces. Get McQuarrie in there. Get Adams in there. Adams is not a forward. Get him inside those stoppages. Get that ball out. Get Mitchell back in there. Get Lipinski back in the midfield. And then you've got Jack Crisp and Pendles that can all rotate through there. We need to start winning clearances. It's as simple as that. However, Geelong does have their own issues with centre clearances themselves. So it's an area Geelong has been struggling in as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But then again, Hawthorn struggled in that first quarter against St Kilda. They got smashed in centre clearances. They turned it around. So why can't we? So for me, it's plain and simple. We must break even at a bare minimum at centre clearances and break even in contested possessions for us to stand a chance in this game. If we give Geelong first use out of the centre with the forward line Geelong has, we've got another 6-goal plus loss coming our way. It's as simple as that. But I am very confident that we're going to bounce back. I'm very confident that our intensity is going to go up another notch. And when the media starts to write us off, as Kane Corns and David King and everyone's questioning Collingwood, I like it. I like it like that. I like it when the media writes us off. We've been the hunted. Yes, we're still on top by a clear 2 games, but I like to be in a position where we can be the hunters because I think that's when we're most dangerous. But apart from that, I'm tipping Collingwood to win a close one by 12 points. I think it's going to be really hard for game. Geelong's literally playing for their season, but this is a chance to really stamp some authority. Geelong sitting 9th. We don't want Geelong making the top 8. Let's be honest. So it's a chance for our players to redeem themselves and go out there against quality opposition and get the job done. So I'll be there this Friday night, and I'm really hoping to see Collingwood bounce back and get a win for our members, our supporters, and also just, for everyone inside the club, the players, the coaching staff. We're all in this together. We're all chasing this flag. We want this flag. I believe our window is now. This year and next year is our premiership window. After that, I don't care what anyone says. There's a good chance we're going to have to rebuild because we've got Pendles, Adams, Cox, Mitchell, Sidebottom, Mychek, and there's probably one or two others that I haven't mentioned that are all over 30. So a lot of those players are in our best 22. So the time is now. This group of players, along with our coaching staff, have got a chance to make history, have got a chance to break this stigma that we've got at this club. And that is, as opposition supporters refer us to, the Collywobbles, the Chokers, the 2 premierships in 65 years. I believe that this group has a chance to break that stigma. The time is now, right now. Not next year, not in 2025, 2023. This is our best chance to land this 16th flag that we've been chasing for so long. So Collingwood, get the job done on Friday night and start playing the brand of football that we love to play and us supporters and members love watching, that has got us in this position on top, 2 games clear. As far as future episodes go, I will be, again, recording a few more episodes moving forward. But next year, I'll be definitely looking at growing this podcast. Please leave comments below and let me know what you think. Until then, I'll be signing off for tonight. Thanks for tuning in to Talking Collingwood. And I'll be back very soon for episode number 2.